Welcome to Starbound. My name's Chikondi, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Farron and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now let's get into today's story. Auditor Zorin's shuttle drops out of Quantum Fold precisely 47,000 kilometers from Charybdis 9, exactly as regulations mandate for approaching a Class 15 Deathworld. His instruments immediately begin their death chime symphony. Radiation levels that would cook unshielded flesh in minutes, atmospheric composition 87% various corrosive compounds, gravity fluctuations suggesting active tectonic instability. All perfectly normal for a world that kills everything. Initial scan confirms planet designation, he dictates to his recording slate, the device's bureaucratic monotone echoing his own. Class 15. Sub-designation, uniformly lethal. Proceeding to coordinates of colony ship Perseverance crash site for standard post-mortem asset recovery. The slate chirps acknowledgement, already preloading forms CT-77 through CT-94. Catastrophic colony failure, complete asset loss, genetic material recovery, unlikely, and his personal least favorite, next of kin notification, batch processing. Then his long-range sensors hiccup. Anomaly detected. The shuttle's AI announces with what Zorin swears is smugness. Multiple active power signatures at target coordinates. Recalibrate sensors, Zorin orders. Cross-reference with known decay patterns for military-grade thorium reactors in highly corrosive. Signatures confirmed active. Also detecting structured atmospheric containment, refined metal deposits in geometric patterns suggesting construction, and... The AI pauses, which it only does when processing something particularly impossible. Outgoing communication signal. Before Zorin can order another recalibration, his comm system crackles to life. Unknown vessel, this is Firebase Persistence, Charybdis 9, state your business. The voice carries the flat cadence of military communications, tinged with the particular boredom of someone who's repeated this phrase too many times, as if hailing ships from the surface of a death world is perfectly normal. Zorin stares at his comm panel. In 3 decades of auditing failed colonies, he's never had one talk back. Firebase Persistence, he manages. This is Galactic Survey Auditor Zorin. Badge number... Yeah, we've been expecting someone like you. Figured the brass would send someone eventually. You're cleared for landing. Pad 2. I'll put some coffee on. Fair warning, it tastes like Santos ran his boots through the processor. The connection clicks off, leaving Zorin in a silence broken only by his slate's confused beeping as it tries to reconcile active communication with certain death. The landing pad shouldn't exist. Zorin knows this with the same certainty he knows hydrogen has 1 proton. Charybdis 9's atmosphere contains a cocktail of acids that dissolve most known alloys within days. Yet here sits a perfectly functional landing pad, its surface polished to a mirror sheen that reflects his shuttle's approach. The guidance lights work. The automated refueling arms stand ready. There's even what appears to be a welcome mat at the personnel airlock. He seals his environment suit, triple-checking each connection, and cycles through. The figure waiting for him wears standard military utilities with sergeant stripes, no protective gear whatsoever. The man is mid-40s, weathered in the way career soldiers get, with eyes that assess Zorin in one quick sweep. Staff Sergeant Marcus Kellerman, he says, offering a hand that Zorin automatically shakes through his suit's glove. Welcome to the armpit of the galaxy. You are breathing, Zorin observes. Usually do, Kellerman's mouth quirks. We've got the worst air inside the pressure fence. Smells like Santos still on a bad day, but it won't kill you. Much. He leads Zorin through the airlock into what should be a tomb. Instead, it's a functioning military installation. The corridors are clean, well lit, with colored pipes running around the ceiling in neat bundles. Someone has painted Hot Death on a red pipe and Cold Death on a blue one. A yellow pipe is helpfully labeled Probably Fine. "Let me introduce you to the team," Kellerman says, guiding him into what's clearly a command center. Banks of equipment hum with purpose, displays showing everything from weather patterns to, Zarin blinks, what looks like wildlife migration data. "Corporal Reeves, our comm specialist." A younger man with an infectious grin waves from behind a console that's definitely made from 3 different incompatible systems, somehow working in harmony. "Hey there! You're the tax man, right?" "I'm an auditor," Zarin corrects. "Same thing! You count stuff and tell us we're doing it wrong." Reeves' grin doesn't dim. "Want to see something cool? I've got our local EMP predators on scope. Big migration today." "You have electromagnetic pulse predators on scope?" Zarin's voice climbs. "They should have fried every circuit in a 100-kilometer radius." "Did, first week," Reeves shrugs. "But they're predictable once you figure out their patterns. Real sweet, actually, once you get to know them." Zarin turns to Kellerman, who's watching with the patience of someone used to this reaction. "Perhaps we should start with your logs." "Sure. Reeves, transmit everything to the auditor's slate." "On it, Sarge!" Zarin's slate accepts the data transfer, then immediately has what can only be described as a mechanical panic attack. Error. Atmospheric corrosive agent listed as primary industrial input. Error. Apex predator feeding schedule does not match any known logistical category. Error. Man-hours allocated to recreational geo-tracking exceed regulatory maximum for non-essential activities. Error. Power generation metrics impossible. Geothermal tap efficiency at 340%. Warning. Data integrity compromised. Recommend full diagnostic. "Your slate okay?" Reeves asks with concern that might be genuine. "Sometimes our files make standard systems a bit upset. Santos says it's because we're using a quaternary data structure he invented, but I think it's just because reality gets flexible out here." Zarin forces himself to breathe slowly, in through the nose, out through the assorted holes throughout his body. Just like they taught in Auditor Basic Training Module 7, maintaining composure in the face of impossible data. "Perhaps," he says carefully, "you could walk me through your procedures, starting from the beginning." Kellerman nods. "Fair enough. Started rough, I'll admit." 3 months ago, the supply pod hits Carbodus 9's atmosphere like a meteor, its heat shield glowing cherry red against the perpetual storm clouds. Kellerman watches its descent through binoculars from what they're generously calling shelter, a natural cave system they've managed to partially seal. "Tracking looks good," Reeves reports, rain drumming against the tarp they've stretched over his equipment. "Should hit the plateau in 90 seconds. Santos, you ready with the recovery gear?" "Ready as we can be." The engineer doesn't look up from the ceramic-lined collection system he's been working on for 2 weeks. "Though if I'm right about the atmospheric composition, we've got maybe an hour before—" The pod impacts with a satisfying thud, kicking up a cloud of rust-colored dust. They move quickly, Kellerman leading the recovery team across the broken terrain. The rain intensifies. It always does, like the planet knows they're trying to accomplish something. They reach the pod in 12 minutes. By minute 13, it's already beginning to dissolve. "Shit!" someone mutters. Might be Private Henderson, who won't make it past the 2nd month. "Look at the hull!" The military-grade armor that should withstand orbital debris is bubbling like overheated cheese. Wherever rain hits directly, metal runs in silvery streams. "Emergency recovery!" Kellerman barks. "Grab what you can!" They work with desperate efficiency, yanking out crates and supplies, throwing them onto the sledges they've cobbled together from scavenged landing struts and cargo netting. The pod groans, structural members failing in sequence. A support beam dissolves entirely, and half the remaining cargo tumbles into rapidly forming lakes of rainbow-colored acid. "Leave it!" Kellerman orders as someone reaches for a crate already half-melted. "Fall back!" They retreat to the cave with perhaps a third of their supplies. The rest becomes abstract art, metal and plastic running together into rainbow puddles that steam in the alien rain. "Well," Santos says after a long moment, watching their hopes dissolve, "at least now I know the exact pH." "That's your takeaway?" Henderson demands. "We're fucked! That was our only—" "The acid reacts differently to different alloys," Santos interrupts, pointing at the puddles. "Look, the titanium derivatives are lasting longer. That ceramic liner I've been working on? Not a scratch." Kellerman follows his gaze. Where the pod's ceramic heat shielding has fallen, it sits unmarred by acid that's eating through military-grade steel like sugar in water. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Santos grins, the expression slightly manic. "That we just found our primary industrial solvent?" "I was thinking we're probably going to die, but I like your version better." "You weaponized the atmosphere," Zorin says flatly, back in the present, staring at the refinery that, once again, shouldn't exist. "Weaponized is a strong word." Kellerman passes him a sample of their latest output, a titanium alloy bar purer than anything Zorin's seen outside a zero-G foundry. "We prefer leveraged." The refinery is magnificent in its insanity. Collection tubes run from the roof, funneling acid into ceramic-lined processing tanks. The air smells like hot metal and ozone. Santos explains the process with the enthusiasm of someone describing their favorite child. "See, the volcanic soil here is incredibly mineral-rich, but the metals are all locked up in complex compounds. The acid breaks those bonds perfectly. We just had to figure out the right catalyst to precipitate what we wanted. This tank here gives us iron, that one's for aluminum, and the big one, that's where we get the good stuff. Titanium, tungsten, even trace amounts of rhodium." "The atmosphere is eating your planet," Zorin protests. "Sure, but slowly. We've got at least another 1,000,000 years before it's a real problem." Santos adjusts a valve, checking flow rates. "By then, someone else's problem, right?" Zorin's slate attempts to categorize this under standard industrial processes. It settles on other, see attached notes, and gives up. "Perhaps we should continue the tour," Kellerman suggests, noting Zorin's expression. "You haven't seen the really interesting stuff yet." The perimeter fence stands 4 meters tall, made from what Zorin now recognizes as locally sourced tungsten alloy. It hums with barely contained energy that makes his teeth ache. Beyond it, the landscape is a hellscape of broken rock, acid lakes, and things moving in the perpetual twilight. "EMP predators," Kellerman explains, pointing at shapes Zorin's eyes refuse to properly resolve. "How is your fence still functioning?" "Funny story." Kellerman nods to Reeves, who produces what looks like a military whistle that's been heavily modified with additional components. "First week, they took out our entire sensor grid. Could have killed us all while we were blind. Instead, they just watched." Reeves blows the whistle. No sound Zorin can hear, but his suit's sensors scream about infrasonic frequencies. The shapes beyond the fence move with purpose now, 3 of them approaching with the deliberate gait of apex predators that know they own everything they survey. The creatures are wrong. Zorin's brain insists they should have a fixed form, but they shift and flow like living static. Where they pass, small electronics spark and die. One reaches the fence and does something that might be sniffing, if sniffing involved electromagnetic radiation. Kellerman pulls out a chunk of scrap metal from a bin clearly placed for this purpose. He tosses it over the fence. The creature's form collapses around it, and the metal simply ceases to exist with a sound like reality tearing. "Good boy," Kellerman says fondly. "Or girl, or neither. Haven't figured out their biology yet." "You are feeding them," Zorin states. "Sure. Costs us maybe 50 kilos of scrap a week. and in exchange they patrol our perimeter. Nothing else comes near. They're territorial as hell. The manual says electromagnetic predators are impossible to domesticate. They don't have neural structures capable of conditioning. Manual's wrong! Reeves scratches one of the creatures with a long ceramic pole. It rumbles, or maybe that's just Zorin's imagination. They're smart! Scary smart! They just think differently. Once we figured out they respond to structured EM patterns instead of regular stimuli, training them was easy. Easy, Zorin repeats. Well, easier than fighting them. Kellerman's expression suggests memories best left unshared. This way, everyone wins. They get regular meals and a territory to defend. We get the best security system in the galaxy. One of the creatures deposits something at the fence line, a chunk of corroded metal bearing Cyrillic script. Russian colony pod, Reeves identifies, probably from the attempt 6 years ago. They keep bringing us presents. It's actually pretty cute. Zorin watches them feed their impossible pets and decides he needs a drink. 2 months ago, the lights die. Not gradually, not with warning. One moment, Firebase persistence has power. The next, darkness absolute. EMP! Someone shouts, Everyone down! They've drilled this, helmets on, weapons ready, waiting for the follow-up attack that must be coming. The emergency chemical lights kick in, casting everything in hellish red. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they can see shapes moving. Big shapes, lots of them. Motion on all sides! Henderson reports, voice tight. Dozens, maybe hundreds! Steady, Kellerman orders. The lieutenant is already dead, caught outside when the pulse hit. Command is his now, for whatever that's worth. They're testing us. Nobody shoots unless... A massive form slams against the window. The transparent aluminum holds, barely. In the chemical light, they catch glimpses of the creature. Not solid, not gas, something between. Where it touches the window, fractal patterns of frost spread, despite the ambient temperature being well above freezing. What the hell are they? Henderson again, panic creeping in. Electromagnetic-based life forms, Santos says with the detachment of someone solving a puzzle while the world burns. They're not actually corporeal. The visible form is just ionized gas following their field lines. Can we kill them? With what? Bullets won't work on those things. Another impact. This time, the window cracks. Ideas? Kellerman keeps his voice level. Santos, you're looking thoughtful. They communicate through EM pulses, right? And they're testing our defenses systematically. That suggests intelligence. So maybe we can talk to them. Talk? To the math ghosts that just killed our CO? You got a better idea? Kellerman considers their options. Fight creatures made of electromagnetic fields with projectile weapons. Try to repair their defenses while under siege. Or... do it. Santos springs into action, ripping panels off the dead communication array. Reeves, need you to modulate a signal on these frequencies. He scratches equations on the wall with a piece of charcoal. Start with prime numbers, universal constant. Are we seriously trying to math at them? Henderson demands. Shut up and help me with this transmitter, Reeves snaps, hands already flying over components. It takes 12 minutes. 12 minutes of impacts, of cracks spreading across their barriers, of shapes pressing in from all sides. Then Reeves hits transmit, and a pure tone rings out. Not audible, but felt in bones and teeth. The attack stops. They're listening, Henderson whispers. Quick, give me something more complex. Fibonacci sequence, pi, anything mathematical. They broadcast for an hour. The creatures remain, surrounding them, but no more attacks come. Then, as dawn breaks through the eternal storm clouds, one of them approaches the fence. It moves differently, deliberately, almost cautiously. It's bringing something, Reeves reports, watching through binoculars. The object is another chunk of metal, but this one is placed carefully at the gate. Then the creature retreats to what might be considered a respectful distance. "I'll go," Kellerman decides.
"Sarge, that's..."
"My job. Cover me." He suits up, checks seals twice, and cycles through the airlock. The creatures watch but don't approach. The metal chunk turns out to be part of their own sensor array, fried but intact. There's something almost apologetic about its placement. "I think," he says slowly, "they're trying to give it back."
"Give back the equipment they destroyed?"
"Maybe they didn't know it was ours. Maybe they thought..." Kellerman trails off, studying the creatures. "Santos, what do pack hunters do when they accidentally attack something that's not prey?"
"Depends on the species, but sometimes they'll..." Oh, that's interesting."
"What's interesting?" Henderson asks.
"They're not monsters," Santos breathes. "They're neighbors, and they just realized we're not food."
"So you train electromagnetic predators with maths," Zarin summarizes back in the present, watching the creatures patrol. "More like we established a social contract," Kellerman corrects. "They're quite reasonable once you speak their language." "Their language, which is mathematics."
"Frequency modulation, actually, but math translates well to waves."
Reeves pulls up displays showing various signal patterns.
"See, this sequence here means hello. This one's food's available, and this one roughly translates to danger, seek shelter, though it's got emotional overtones we're still figuring out."
"Emotional overtones?"
"Oh yeah, they're surprisingly expressive. Last week one of them figured out jokes, nearly fried our backup generator laughing."
Reeves pauses.
"Or what passes for laughing when you're made of living electricity."
Zarin's slate has stopped trying to categorize anything. It simply records, its classification subroutines having apparently given up and gone home. "Is there anything on this planet you haven't turned into an asset?" Kellerman considers. "The worms are still mostly just annoying." As if on cue, an alarm sounds. Not the sharp blast of real danger, but an irritated beep. "Speak of the devil," Kellerman sighs. "Santos!"
"On it!"
The engineer jogs to a control panel, fingers dancing over inputs. Through the transparent aluminum, Zarin watches a section of vents stop vibrating.
"Adjusting the resonance. They'll move on in a minute."
"The worms," Zarin says carefully.
"Silicate worms, about 40 meters long, navigate by vibration."
Santos returns to what he was doing, apparently designing new processing tanks.
"They're attracted to our geothermal tap. Used to be a real problem before we figured out their frequency aversion."
"You have 40-meter worms, and they're a minor annoyance."
"Well, yeah, can't eat metal, can't survive inside our pressure fence, and they really hate B-flat."
He shrugs.
"Worst they do is make the ground shake. Henderson wanted to domesticate them too, before...
There's a moment of silence. Even in their success, they've lost people. "How many?" Zarin asks quietly. 4. Henderson in month 2 tried to ride one of the worms. Turns out their skin secretes a paralytic agent. Lieutenant Morrison on day 1 caught outside during the first EMP event. Kowalski and Patel in a tunnel collapse before we figured out the resonance mapping. "I'm sorry." "It's a Deathworld," Kellerman says simply. "We knew the risks, but we're still here. Still too stubborn to die." "Perhaps I could see your recreational facilities," Zarin suggests, needing something less immediate than death statistics. "Sure. Fair warning, though. Santos makes his own alcohol." The recreation room shouldn't exist. Not just because it's a luxury on a world where every resource should go to survival, but because it's actually nice. The pool table is carved from a single block of local obsidian, polished until it gleams. Handmade cards sit on tables built from scavenged pod hulls. The bar is stocked with bottles containing liquids of suspicious origin.
Welcome to the Acid Rain Lounge, Reeves announces. Charybdis's premier and only drinking establishment.
You built a bar on a Deathworld. Morale's important, Kellerman says. Can't be on alert 24/7. People need downtime.
Santos pours drinks from a bottle marked with helpful skull and crossbones stickers. The liquid is clear and smells like paint thinner had a baby with jet fuel. Distilled from local flora, he explains. Had to run it through 17 filtration stages to remove the neurotoxins. Mostly. Well, the tingling in your extremities goes away after a few minutes. Usually.
Zorin stares at the offered glass.
I'm wearing an environment suit.
Right, sorry. Forgot you're not local yet.
Santos drinks his own shot without hesitation.
Give it a few months. The suit gets annoying.
A few months? I'm not staying.
Sure. That's what Morrison said too. Just a quick survey, he said. In and out, he said.
Reeves grins.
Course, he died day one, but the principle stands.
They've built a home here. Not just a survival shelter. Not just a military outpost, but an actual home. There are personal touches everywhere. Photos on walls. A dartboard with what appears to be a photo of some galactic survey bureaucrat as the bullseye. Someone's attempt at growing decorative crystals in the corner.
How?
Zorin asks finally.
How do you just accept this?
Accept what? Kellerman leans against the bar, nursing his own drink. That we're on a planet that wants to kill us? That's just Tuesday. The real question is what you're going to do about it.
Most species would die.
Most species aren't human. There's no arrogance in it, just fact. We're the species that looked at wolves and thought, big fluffy friend. We're the ones who saw rivers and built boats, saw the skies and built wings, saw space and said, hold my beer.
This is different. This is...
A challenge, Santos interrupts. And humans love challenges. Tell us something's impossible, and we'll have 3 guys trying to do it by lunch. Tell us something will kill us, and we'll find a way to make it useful. It's what we do. Speaking of which, Reeves checks his watch. Feeding time.
They file out to the fence, where the EMP predators are already gathering. It's a routine now. Toss the scrap, watch them feed. Note any new presents they've brought. Today's offering appears to be part of a Chinese ship.
That's the 3rd one this month, Santos observes. Must be a debris field somewhere upwind.
I'll mark it for salvage. Kellerman makes a note. Good material in those old ships. They're planning to salvage the remnants of dead colonies, using them as building materials. The audacity of it all should appall Zorin. Instead, he finds himself asking,
What's your long-term plan?
Expand the greenhouses, get better at atmospheric processing, maybe set up a secondary outpost at the geothermal site. Kellerman ticks off points on his fingers. Reeves thinks he can establish communication with the migrating predator packs. Santos wants to try domesticating the worms after all.
You're planning to stay?
Where else would we go? Kellerman gestures at the hellscape around them. This is home now. Ugly as sin, meaner than a drill sergeant with a hangover, but home.
The evacuation ship!
Not coming. We all know it. Even if it did, you think they'd let us bring our pets? He indicates the predators, who have finished feeding and returned to their patrols. Nah, we're Charybdis colonists now. Might as well make the best of it. Zorin realizes his suit's emergency beacon has been silent for hours. No warnings, no alerts. The planet is still trying to kill them. It just no longer seems urgent about it.
I need to make a call,
he says. The quantum communication array is a masterwork of improvisation. 3 different systems held together by what appears to be locally made solder and sheer determination. It works, though, connecting him to his supervisor in seconds despite the light years between them. Regional Supervisor Kixtheta appears on screen, feathers already ruffled in disapproval.
Auditor Zorin, your preliminary report is 6 hours overdue.
I've encountered complications.
Complications? On a Class 15 world? Don't be ridiculous. File your CF-77 and move on to the next system.
The colony is alive.
Silence. Kixtheta's feathers still.
Repeat?
The human colony on Carbonis 9 is alive, functional. They're
Zorin pauses, trying to find words.
thriving.
Impossible! Check your instruments for contamination. The neurotoxic atmosphere may be causing hallucinations.
I'm standing in their command center. I've seen their industrial output. They're refining pure titanium using the atmospheric acids. They've domesticated the EMP predators. They've turned every lethal aspect of this world into a resource.
The Deathworld index is quite clear. Class 15 worlds have a 100% fatality rate within one solar cycle.
Then the index is wrong.
More silence. In the background, Zorin can hear Kellerman directing repairs to something. Santos arguing about optimal pressure differentials. Reeves trying to teach the Predators a new signal pattern.
Auditor Zorin!
Kixtheta's voice carries the weight of centuries of bureaucratic tradition.
The Index has guided colonial efforts for 300 years. It does not simply become wrong because one colony has failed to die on schedule.
They are not going to die. They're expanding. They want to build a second outpost.
Absurd! File your report correctly, or I'll have you reviewed for psychological contamination.
The screen goes dark. Zorin stares at it, then at his slate with its preloaded forms for cataloging failure. Through the window, he watches Santos explaining something to a junior engineer, both of them covered in what appears to be luminescent mineral dust. They're laughing. He deletes the forms. Deep tremors shake the base 3 times before Zorin realizes it's not another worm. The floor bucks, throwing him against a wall. His suit's alarms scream, "Seismic event. Magnitude 8.7. Volcanic upheaval imminent."
Seismic event, code yellow.
Kellerman's voice cuts through the chaos, calm as always over the intercom.
Santos, bring the conversion stacks online. Reeves, signal our friends to keep clear. Everyone else, you know the drill.
Code yellow. A planet-cracking earthquake is code yellow. Zorin staggers to the command center where organized chaos reigns. Santos coordinates teams through crackling radios, directing them to massive structures Zorin hadn't noticed before. Industrial-scale chemical processors built directly over known fault lines.
Fisher 3 is venting!
Someone reports.
Sulfur dioxide and something else! Spectral analysis coming in!
Route it to Stack 3, Santos orders. Martinez, adjust the catalyst mix for high sulfur content.
Environmental toxicity at lethal levels. Zorin's suit informs him helpfully. Recommend immediate evacuation. Through the windows, he watches the world crack open. Massive fissures split the landscape, venting gases that glow in the dark. The acid rain intensifies, mixed now with volcanic ash that turns the air into gray soup. This is how worlds die. Crushed, poisoned, burned. The humans treat it like harvest season.
Stack 2 at capacity!
Another report.
We're pulling 90% pure oxygen after processing!
Gorgeous! Route the overflow to storage!
Santos grins beneath his breathing mask.
Kellerman, we're going to have surplus! Might actually need to expand the tank farm.
Problems for next week,
Kellerman replies. He's at a monitoring station, watching feeds form around the base.
Predators are herding the local fauna away from the vents. Reeves, send them the gratitude pattern.
Already did. They seem excited. I think this is like a feast day for them. All that electromagnetic disturbance from the volcanic activity.
The planet tries to kill them with poison gas and earthquakes.
They process the gas into breathable air and thank their guard dogs for managing the wildlife. Zorin finds himself laughing, a sound his suit mistakes for respiratory distress.
You all right there, Auditor? Kellerman appears at his elbow, looking a bit overwhelmed. You are insane! All of you! Completely insane! Probably, but it works.
Another tremor, smaller. Kellerman doesn't even shift his weight.
You know what your problem is? You keep thinking of this as a death world. It is a death world! Sure, by galactic standards, but those standards assume people run from danger. Humans don't run, we adapt. This planet's not trying to kill us, it's just being itself. Once you accept that, everything else is just engineering.
The tremors subside over the next 2 hours. The venting slows. The rain returns to its normal levels of merely lethal. Teams in cobbled-together hazard suits emerge to survey the damage, or rather, the opportunities.
Fisher 7 opened right where the models predicted, a tech reports gleefully. We've got direct access to that rare earth deposit. Outstanding. Get a mining team prepped. Kellerman turns to Zorin. See? Planet does the digging, we collect the goods. It's practically a partnership. The planet, Zorin says slowly. It's not your partner. It's a Class 15 death world that just tried to kill you with volcanic gases.
And we turned those gases into breathable air, plus sulfur compounds we can use for battery production. Santos appears, covered in soot but smiling. Net gain of about 3,000 cubic meters of oxygen and enough sulfur to last 6 months. Not bad for a code yellow.
What's code red?
Haven't had one yet. Figure it'll be exciting when we do. Zorin's slate chooses this moment to chime. A message from Xtheta.
File your report immediately or face suspension.
He looks at the humans who've turned catastrophe into opportunity, poison into resources, predators into pets. His entire career has been about documenting failure, cataloging the myriad ways the universe crushes those who dare challenge it. But here...
I need to write a report, he says. Use conference room 2, Kellerman offers. It's got the good coffee.
The report takes 3 hours, not because Zorin struggles with what to write, but because he keeps stopping to verify impossibilities. Yes, the atmospheric processing really does produce water as a byproduct. Yes, the predators respond to mathematical sequences. Yes, they've achieved a 340% efficiency on geothermal power by tapping into the electromagnetic fields the predators generate during feeding. Each fact builds on the last, a towering edifice of human stubbornness that defies 3 centuries of carefully catalogued wisdom. The Deathworld Index says this is impossible. The humans say the index needs updating. In the end, Zorin writes what he sees. A functional colony thriving through integration with lethal environmental factors. He recommends a new classification system, one that accounts for what he carefully terms adaptive integration methodology. He does not use the word insane, though it appears in his personal notes 17 times.
Sending this will end my career,
he tells Kellerman over coffee that tastes like battery acid but somehow grows on you.
Why? Because it contradicts everything the Galactic Survey knows about colonization. The index is... It's not just policy, it's philosophy. The idea that some worlds are simply beyond saving.
Nothing's beyond saving if you're stubborn enough. Kellerman refills both their cups.
Besides, you're wrong. We shouldn't be here. By any logical metric, we should be dead. But logic's just the starting point. After that, it's all about what you're willing to accept. And you accept living on a world that wants you dead? I accept that the world doesn't care about us one way or another. It's got its nature, we've got ours. Sometimes those natures conflict. Sometimes they align. The trick is finding the alignment.
Through the window, dawn breaks over Charybdis 9.
The eternal storm clouds part just enough to let through a shaft of sunlight that sets the acid rain sparkling like diamonds. It's beautiful in its way, beautiful and absolutely lethal.
Send the report,
Zorin decides. He hits transmit before he can reconsider. The quantum relay accepts the data, shooting it across light years to a bureaucracy unprepared for the idea that humans might be harder to kill than physics suggests.
So, Kellerman says after a moment, while we wait for the reply, want to see the greenhouse? We've got tomatoes coming in. Turns out the volcanic soil is incredible once you neutralize the acid. Tomatoes. On a Deathworld. Best you've ever tasted. The background radiation really brings out the flavor.
The reply comes 2 weeks later. Zorin has spent the time documenting everything. The industrial processes, the predator training, the way Santos has started teaching the worms to avoid specific areas by using targeted resonance fields. He's eaten their impossible tomatoes. They are, in fact, delicious. He's even tried the local moonshine, though only once. Kixtheta appears on screen, feathers now permanently ruffled. Behind him, Zorin can see other figures, the full Colonial Review Board.
Auditor!
Theta begins formally.
Your report has been reviewed. It is unprecedented.
I stand by my observations.
The board has questions. First, you claim the colonists have domesticated Class 9 electromagnetic predators. This is impossible.
Nevertheless true.
Zorin keys up the video files.
Observe.
They watch Reeves conducting what can only be called a training session, the predators responding to signals with increasing sophistication. One even appears to be learning jokes, its electromagnetic field fluctuating in what Santos swears is laughter.
Second,
Theta continues, visibly shaken.
you report a 340% efficiency in power generation. This violates thermodynamics.
Only if you consider the system in isolation. The predators generate massive electromagnetic fields during feeding. The colonists have learned to tap into this excess energy. It's not perpetual motion, it's symbiosis.
Third, the atmospheric processing.
It goes on for an hour, each impossibility documented, verified, cross-referenced. The board members whisper among themselves in languages Zorin doesn't recognize. Finally, Kixtheta raises a claw for silence.
The board has reached a decision. Charybdis 9 is to be reclassified as...
He struggles with words that don't exist yet.
Classification 17-H. Conditional habitation. Human pliable.
Human pliable,
Zorin repeats.
The board feels this adequately describes worlds that are uniformly lethal to all known species except humans, who will invariably find some way to make them livable through processes that defy conventional understanding.
So you're creating a whole new classification just for humans.
The alternative is admitting the entire index is flawed.
Kixtheta's expression suggests he's swallowing something unpleasant.
This is tidier.
Additionally,
Another board member interjects.
the colony's request for permanent settlement status is approved. Full supply drops will resume, though.
A pause.
Perhaps with more robust packaging.
The connection ends. Zorin stares at the dark screen, then at his slate showing the new classification. An entire category of worlds, defined by human stubbornness.
Good news?
Kellerman has appeared, as he always does when something interesting happens.
They've approved your permanent settlement. Supply drops incoming.
Outstanding! Hey, Reeves! Kellerman calls out. You think they'll remember coffee this time?
Real coffee?
Reeves pokes his head in, eyes bright with hope.
Not the synthetic stuff?
Put it on the request list. Priority 1.
On it, Sarge!
They're discussing coffee. Their world has been reclassified, the entire understanding of colonization updated, and they're focused on coffee.
I should go, Zarin says. Other worlds to audit.
Sure you don't want to stay? Kellerman asks. We're breaking ground on the new greenhouse tomorrow. Could use an extra pair of hands. For a moment, Zarin considers it. The base has become familiar over the past 2 weeks. He knows which pipes carry death and which just smell bad. He's developed opinions about optimal electromagnetic frequencies for predator communication. He's even started a small crystal garden in what they're calling his temporary quarters.
No,
He says, finally.
someone needs to tell the galaxy that humans are breaking the rules again.
We're not breaking them, just reinterpreting creatively.
Same thing with your species.
Kellerman laughs. Fair point. Safe travels, Auditor. Don't be a stranger. Zarin's shuttle lifts off from Pad 2, the automated systems handling the launch with smooth efficiency. Below, Firebase Persistence sprawls across the hostile landscape like a defiant fist raised against the universe. The greenhouses catch the light. The predators patrol their routes. The acid rain continues to fall, processed into prosperity. His slate chimes with a new assignment, a failed colony on Bezob-44B, another death world where humans attempted the impossible and, according to reports, failed. But now he wonders, failed or just succeeded in ways the Index doesn't recognize?
Set course for Bezob-44B,
He tells the navigation system. Confirmed. Transit time, 14 standard days. Would you like to review the colony's failure documentation?
No.
Zarin settles back in his seat, watching Charybdis 9 shrink in the viewport.
I'll wait to see for myself.
Behind him, the planet spins on its axis of acid and ambition, its atmosphere still trying to dissolve anything foolish enough to exist there. And somewhere in that corrosive hell, humans are building greenhouses, training mathematics-speaking predators, and arguing about coffee quality. The cosmos has always been vast and hostile, and utterly indifferent to the small, soft creatures that dare to crawl between the stars. But it's never met anything quite as unreasonably persistent as humanity. His slate updates quietly. Deathworld Index V3.7.2 now available. Major revision. Addition of classification 17-H. Human pliable. Zarin smiles. Somewhere in the bureaucratic halls of the Galactic Survey, xenobiologists are tearing their hair out, or feathers, or tentacles, trying to understand how a species can be so simultaneously fragile and indestructible. They'll create new subcategories, addendums, footnotes, trying to capture the impossible contradiction of humanity. They'll fail, of course. How do you classify a species that looks at the worst the universe has to offer and says, yeah, but what if we tried this instead? The shuttle jumps to quantum, leaving Charybdis 9 behind. But not really. It's part of him now, evidence of a fundamental truth the galaxy is slowly learning. Humans don't just survive, they insist on living. And the universe, for all its hostile indifference, hasn't figured out how to stop them yet.